Hello and welcome to State Matters. I'm your host, Mathew Muratore. On today's show, we will be discussing how the Plymouth County DA and Sheriff's Departments interact with local communities and the state government. Joining us for that discussion is the 30th High Sheriff of the County of Plymouth, Sheriff Joe McDonald, and the District Attorney of Plymouth County since 2001, DA Tim Cruz. Thank you both gentlemen for joining us today.
Thank you for
Thanks for having us.
Now, before we get into your bios, I have to ask this question. I didn't tell you off air I was going to ask this, but I always hear this debate of who is actually the top law enforcement officer in Plymouth County. Can we settle that debate today?
I think we can. At common law and historically, the chief law enforcement officer of the county is the sheriff.
Okay.
However, in modern usage, the office of the sheriff is ancient. It goes back to medieval England, back to probably the 7th or 8th century. But as things have evolved, as our society has evolved, it has really brought the office of the prosecutor to prominence. So I am happy to sit here and say that as I look across the table at my friend and my colleague that he really probably has that title.
Okay.
More claim to that title than I do. So.
Okay, then we're going to start with you, DA Cruz, with your bio. Let's talk about who is DA Cruz. Give people, for folks that don't know who you are, for the 5 or 6 people that don't know who you are in this county, who you are. What's a little bit of your background?
Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate being here today, and it's always great coming on with the sheriff. But my name's Tim Cruz, and for the last 20 years, I've been the Plymouth County District Attorney, and I grew up here in West Bridgewater, a little town right next to Brockton. I was born in Brockton. My family has Brockton roots, and I went to public school, went to Boston College, went to Suffolk Law, and was really fortunate when I got out of law school to work for the Plymouth County District Attorney. And at that time was a gentleman by the name of Bill O'Malley.
Oh, yeah,
who gave me my first legal position. And I worked there for 4 years, and I handled everything from trespass to homicide. That was great. It was great background. You learn all the different courts here, meet all the people.
And then you ran for DA right after that?
No. I actually, like most young DAs, we're not making a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
So I left in 1989, and I went out in private practice, where I had my own practice for 11 years.
I didn't know that.
I represented all sorts of individuals charged with crimes here in Plymouth County, and also did personal injury cases and divorces and things such as that, very general practice. And then I became the DA in 2001. The DA prior to me was Mike Sullivan. Mike had taken over when Bill O'Malley had passed.
I actually served with his daughter,
Allison,
Sullivan,
sure.
in the state legislature.
And so, what happened was Mike was appointed to be the U.S. Attorney by President Bush back then,
right, yeah.
and I was appointed by Governor Swift to finish out Mike's last year of that term. And I became the DA then, and I ran, and I've run 5 times since, and I'm still here.
Well, terrific. Sheriff, a little bit about your background. I think there's probably a few people that may not know you, maybe
Sure.
a handful.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a fair statement to make. Yeah, I also am a local guy. I was raised in Marshfield. I went to Marshfield High School, and when I graduated Marshfield High School, I didn't stay local, but I did leave the Commonwealth. I went out west to UMass Amherst.
Oh, my daughter goes there.
Yeah, it's probably
great
one of the
school.
better decisions I ever made. It was
Yeah.
a wonderful 4-year experience, but got my bachelor's from UMass Amherst, and then I went to Suffolk University Law School, just like Tim, and graduated, and I was in private practice for a short period of time, a few years. I was actually in a law office with probably one of the most notable lawyers locally, Attorney Frank McGee. And he was famous for doing a lot of the Boston police cases. He was famous for having done some Vietnam cases. He was just a tremendous lawyer, a tremendous intellect, and I miss him. I don't have him to call on the phone anymore. But after a few years of that, I was offered, excuse me, a position to go over to the DA's office. And I loved the trial work. I loved to be in the courtroom. And I said, you know what? This would really be the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. I always wanted to be a prosecutor. So I went over to the DA's office, and I was there for about 9 years. And when I left the DA's office, it was to run for the position of sheriff. That was back in 2004. And
Who was the sheriff at the time?
The sheriff at the time was Joe McDonough.
Okay.
And the DA at the time that I was working for was Michael Sullivan.
Okay.
And I was successful in that first run for sheriff, and I have been there. I was sworn in 2005, and I've been there since.
Yeah. Now, in some of the homework that we did on you, you received an award from the FBI Trilogy Award. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure,
That was
yeah.
really That seemed pretty interesting.
Yeah, I and a few members of my staff actually. One of the things that I was privileged to do, and this is back in 2008, was I went to Quantico, the FBI Academy, and they did a program down there for law enforcement executives. It was called LEADA, the Law Enforcement Executive Development Association. So the academy was called LEADS. The society that you become a member of afterwards is LEADA, the association. So I spent a few weeks down there at Quantico. It was really a wonderful experience. And after that, they expanded their offerings through the FBI, leadership training at many levels. And there was a supervisory training, there was an executive level training. There were actually 3 of those trainings that you were able to participate in. And one of the challenges that they give you, and you don't have to be a graduate of the Quantico program to do it. You can do them individually or do them all. I did all 3 of those. The frontline supervisor, the manager, and the executive level training. And I think the executive level training, of all the trainings that I did, it was good to do them all. But the executive level training was excellent training, taught by nationally known law enforcement folks. I've talked to Tim about this a little offline, and I think it'd be great training, the executive level, for he and any of his staff members that want to do that, because it is relevant stuff. So when you complete all of those successfully, which I did, I received a nice award from the FBI.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, and actually my
honor.
my lapel pin is the FBI.
Oh,
LEADA.
is that it? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great,
Law
terrific,
Enforcement
terrific.
Executive
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Tim, I'm going to start with you
Sure.
first. When people hear about a district attorney, they think of law and order, they think of DA Jack McCoy, but your office is much more than that. Can you tell viewers what they may not know about your office and what you do?
Yeah, well thanks. And we certainly are a very busy office. We have on any given year anywhere between 16 to 20,000 criminal cases that's handled by roughly 60 lawyers who are either in Brockton, Plymouth, Wareham, or Hingham, or Brockton or Plymouth for Superior Court cases. And we handle, those are the cases that you think of when you think of law and order, CSI, and things such as that. And we're involved in all that stuff. And that's great. And we have a lot of investigations that go on also, that 24 troopers work for the DA's office. And they investigate all the homicides. They investigate all the major drug traffickings in cases such as that. And they're out and
So
about.
you have 24 state troopers within the Plymouth County?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's actually, that's the number we're supposed to have. Sometimes we're maybe short a couple.
Right, yeah.
But that's the number we're supposed to have based upon our population. And every DA has that. Every DA has a number of state police contingent upon what they need for their jurisdiction. And Plymouth County, because it's such a large area, it's 800 square miles, we have 530,000 people that live here. So there's a lot of balls in the air, as they say. But the things that normally if people see what we do, they see me, it's usually when something terrible's happened. And what I like to get the word out about is a lot of the good things that we do in our community on the front end, trying to prevent crime that goes out there. And many of the things that we do, we work with the Sheriff's Department, we work with the Mayor in Brockton, we work with all of our different agencies here. And there's a real great cooperation between all these different things that we do. So I send, prosecutors and myself, we'll go to school and talk about cybercrime and talk to young kids about phones and Facebook and how to protect your information, and talk to their parents also, to make sure the parents understand that you can't just have a 12-year-old child and let them go anywhere they want on the internet. The internet is an incredibly great educational tool. There's also predators out there who will come online, they'll try to hurt our kids and get information. On the same line, they'll also may go after seniors. They'll go after seniors and try to scam them and try to get information out of them. So during COVID, we've been doing a lot of things on Zoom as pertains to scams, whether it be the grandparent scams, the IRS scams, the COVID scams that are ongoing at that point. We continue to go out and make sure we can talk to all the people that we can in our community about the issues that are going on. My job, and like the sheriff's job, it's not really 9 to 5. If something terrible happens in our county, usually I'll get the call and I will go. Somebody from my office always goes. The troopers always go, and we try to get in front of the things. And remember that many times when you show up at a crime scene, people want things done immediately. They want answers immediately. And it's always been my philosophy that slow and steady wins the race. And you go slow, you go thorough, you do your job now, and eventually you'll get there. And as a result of that, since I've been DA, our clearance rate on our homicides is 85%, and that is very high compared to other jurisdictions in the Commonwealth as well as in the United States. So we continue to work, I think, in conjunction with all of our different groups, and that's our job. But like I said, there's so many more preventative things I know that we'll talk a little bit about as we go forward.
Yeah, right. Sheriff, I suspect most of viewers don't realize that the correctional facility is state, county, and federal. How did that come to be, and can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Sure, yeah. The correctional facility that we're in now over on Long Pond Road, 24 Long Pond Road, was opened in 1994. And that was really constructed under the leadership of former Sheriff Peter Y. Flynn. And Sheriff Flynn is snowbirding it now, but he is still around, and I do get to talk to him on a routine basis. Yeah,
I worked on his first campaign as a kid. I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Peter is, he's been very helpful to me along the way as well, and I appreciate that. But when Sheriff Flynn constructed that facility, it was built in a very unique way. I don't think any place else in the country really was done. He utilized the borrowing power of the county with the partnership with the federal government and the Commonwealth to do a bond issue at the county level that actually constructed that whole facility. So in the old days when the jail was on Oberry Street, and many people will remember that facility opened I think in 1908 or 1909, and that Sheriff Flynn, in order to supplement his budget down there, would partner up with the U.S. Marshal Service, what was INS back in those days, and also the Commonwealth. And they would receive monies, not so much from the Commonwealth, but from the federal government that helped subsidize the budget of the operation down here in Plymouth. So when Sheriff Flynn constructed the new facility, his vision was that it would become I don't want to say substantially, but there would be a substantial component of services offered, or space offered to the state, and space offered to the federal government as well. And that has continued. And
you get funding from the federal government for that.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because the short answer is yes, but the longer answer is since 2002, that money has all gone to the general fund of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay.
And that was part of when we went over in what was generally regarded or called the state takeover of the sheriff's offices. That was statewide. And that was something that I welcomed. I said, I would gladly trade budgetary certainty for, the vicissitudes of this, how many folks are the feds going to send us or whatever. So it really has worked out very well, and we have, as an agency, been able to put tens of millions of dollars more actually into the general fund for the Commonwealth that we've trusted you to allocate appropriately, and God bless you have.
Yeah, so. you get your allocations every year.
Right, but it goes to the general fund.
Right,
so I mean, you guys have been great.
But you're funded then by the state, though.
Yes, and it's funny. The state, we're funded by, and actually, I don't know if I'm invading in one of the other questions, but many people, now you're a state agency, and I say yes, but your answer, that's the right answer, because our jurisdiction hasn't changed at all.
Yeah, you're still Plymouth County.
We're still Plymouth County. We're the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office. My jurisdiction legally is the 27 communities in Plymouth County. That's really all we're able to do. The only thing that changed in 2010 was that funding mechanism.
Right.
And I think it's worked out well throughout. Because before then, there are 14 counties in Massachusetts, 14 sheriff's offices. 7 of them, the counties ceased to exist. 7 of them they didn't. Plymouth County still had a county government, and it was somewhat antiquated and cumbersome for us to go through the county, because we were really the biggest part of that. So now that we're dealing directly with you and your colleagues in the legislature and the governor's office, things have become much more efficient and I think work much better.
Yeah. Tim, I want to talk to you about the partnership that you and the sheriff have done over the last several years with the Plymouth County Drug Abuse Task Force. And actually, I'm proud to be part of that as a legislator.
Thank you for your work and effort.
I appreciate that. Can you share, how that started, and where's it at now, and how efficient is it?
Yeah, I mean,
Effective is it?
I think it's great, and I'm very thankful that the sheriff's involved, and that you're involved, and all the other groups, the clergy, faith-based people, schools, Bridgewater State University, all the different groups that we're dealing with, bringing people who understand what's going on in our community together to talk about and have a good conversation as to what can we do to make our community better and safer. Because we noticed, the sheriff and I noticed a few years prior to that, was that we had an uptick in fatal opiate overdoses in Plymouth County, as everybody did. You know, and because of the fact that I have those troopers that work for me, they respond to all the non-hospital related overdoses and or deaths in the county to make sure they're not suspicious. So we have a number of people there that we can count those in, and we saw those numbers going up. So what do you do with that? So we brought together a great group of people to talk about how can we make sure that we get information out, and what can we do to help and break the cycles of drug endangered children, which is what we've found, because we've done other programs before in the past where we've dealt with kids who have witnessed trauma in their lives and have violence in their lives, and they significantly have issues when they go to school. So we've been doing for years, since in 2007, we were doing it in the Brockton school system, trying to make sure that we could make their school trauma sensitive. We brought in people, once again, who are professionals. Trauma Learning Policy Initiative. We brought in Harvard Law. We brought in the Mass Advocates. We worked with other groups that came in, trained the schools so that if they saw a child who had been enduring trauma, they could try to help them themselves, but if they couldn't, they could go the next step and get them help and send them. They could learn how to recognize that. Our goal is trying to make a trauma-sensitive county, and right now we've got about nine or 10 schools in towns in Plymouth County that are on board with that. We continue to work and try to train. It's all free. You try to get that information. We started with the children who witnessed violence, and then when the opioid epidemic began, and we were starting the task force, we said, well, you know, there's a lot of kids out there who are watching their parents, their brothers or sisters overdose. They're there. The police show up, first responders show up, and these kids are traumatized by that. And these kids have what's known as an ACE, an adverse childhood experience. So these children, the more ACEs you have, the more likely it is you're also going to be using drugs down the road. How do you help those kids? And that's the goal of all this. And we developed a lot of programs. We had different names for them. Handle with Care is now something that's going around right now, which is great. But I think that was really what kicked it off. And from that, you know, Plymouth County Outreach began out from the task force. And that's getting 27 police departments here in Plymouth County together.
That was not an easy task.
No, it never is. I talked to other DAs around the country. They said, you know, you have 27 communities. How do you get 27 chiefs to agree that today's Friday? Yeah. I mean, it's just they have all their own issues and their own budgets and things like that. But our chiefs were great, and they understood the problem that we were facing. And working in conjunction with the sheriff and myself and all these other groups, we continue to work to try to educate people and try to help people remove that stigma from heroin overdoses and opiate overdoses, because we're dealing no longer with just heroin. It's fentanyl, it's carfentanil, it's ketamine, all these other drugs that are out there that our youngsters are using, and they have no idea how powerful it is. And I think the sheriff sees the aftermath down at the jail, because the biggest detox in our county persists to be the Plymouth County House of Correction, because there's not enough beds for these guys to help them. So that's something that we need to continue to do, because as the sheriff can tell you, the criminal justice system, unfortunately, is the depository of mental health and also drug issues.
And we need to change that.
We do. And we're ill-suited for it. Many times we're pounding square pegs into round holes. Yeah. Now, if somebody does something terrible, they're going to be held accountable. But at the same time, if they have a drug issue, if they have mental health issues, they've never been diagnosed and they've been on medication, those people have to be helped. And we have to have more places for them. And it doesn't always mean the jail. It doesn't work sometimes.
Well, as you know, the governor has just recently come out with a comprehensive mental health bill. The Senate already has theirs, and the House is going to be coming out with one this spring as well. So I think we're finally putting mental health in the forefront. That should help a lot of that.
That's great.
Yeah. So.
Well, you know, count us in on helping with that now. Any questions that you've got, because Tim correctly points out that unfortunately, and it's not just in Plymouth County, but statewide, your correctional facilities are your largest providers of detox services and mental health. And the other thing too that I would add, Tim, we did the 27 police departments, but also 28. BSU has been really big with us on this.
They're great.
Right.
And BSU has been on the forefront of a lot of these programs on campus. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah. So, Sheriff, I want to turn to you now and talk about, for several years now, I've been hearing on the Beacon Hill about criminal justice reform.
Yeah.
And I recently heard that Massachusetts is the least incarcerated state in the country. And I know that the DA's Community Investment and Youthful Offender Diversion Program has resulted in very positive outcomes. So can you talk a little bit about that and the reentry program?
Sure.
As it's helping these men transition back into the community?
That's a great question, and I thank you for that. And I want to publicly thank the district attorney for all of his help on those things, because he's really been a great partner with reference to all of those things. Reentry is, you know, like any journey, the most important part of that is the embarkation. And when people come to us, they present with many, many issues, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, family issues, and we assess those people as they're coming in and try to match them up with programming that will help them with those issues. And we try to deal with those things because we know, and Tim and I talk about this all the time, that 99% or more of the people that are spending time over at the House of Correction, they're coming back into our community. So it's incumbent upon us, and our staff is great at this, to give them, to make it better for them to come back, maximize their chances of success, and try and keep them out of jail. Now, you talked about incarceration numbers, and I know, we hear in the media all the time about mass incarceration and, we're the most incarcerated country in the world and blah, blah. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to take responsibility for what they do in other places, but here in the Commonwealth, we are, and have been for the last several years, the least incarcerated state in the country, in the Union, really, which is a great accomplishment, I think. Out of 50 states, we're number 50. And our numbers as we sit here today have dropped precipitously. And, some of that, people, well, that's because of COVID and whatnot. And some of it is due to that. But those numbers have been dropping during my entire tenure as sheriff. And not just here in Plymouth County, but statewide.
Throughout the state.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with the success of those programs. Now, we've done great strides is taking care of medical issues, mental health issues, but one of the most important things I think that we can do is to give those individuals that have come to us by reason of the judicial system a viable alternative to committing crimes when they get out. So we have focused very largely on vocational programs and helping those individuals get the services like health insurance. Time was several years ago that when someone came to us, their health insurance would cease, and then when they left, the first job they'd have to do, if they had the capability to do this, would be to try and get it reinstated. We've got 4 reentry specialists in the House of Correction who help those individuals to make sure that as they're leaving, they've got medical insurance. They've got a doctor that they can see. Because many of these folks come to us, they've never been to a doctor. And it's, some of these health issues that they bring to us may have started simple, but have certainly become more complex over time. We want to make sure that they've got a skill set and a job. And to that end, and I want to thank the DA publicly because he's really helped and partnered with us, and Mayor Sullivan over in the city of Brockton. We used to do, or it started out as job fairs within the correctional facility. And it was sort of an amazing thing to see, like a job fair you'd see at a college, but here we are inside the correctional facility. And now, Mayor Sullivan, Bob Sullivan over in Brockton, has actually given us office space in City Hall for one of our reentry specialists. And we're doing, the next one we're going to do is at the Shaw Center. And it's a Corey-friendly job fair, we call that. And the DA's office partners with us. And you'd be amazed at, the Kraft Group was there, UPS, Clean Harbors. Can you think of any?
IBEW.
IBEW,
real trade things, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that we were trying to do before the pandemic hit us squarely in the forehead was trying to get some of our inmates into those trade programs. That was proceeding full steam ahead, and now I'm hoping we'll be able to get that train back on the tracks. But I think the most important thing that we can do in the course of our job as corrections professionals is to make sure that these individuals are as healthy as they can be when they leave. Their health insurance is intact, they got a place to live, so they're not worried about that, and most importantly, they've got a skill set and a job.
Yeah, that's
to the end.
Well, that's thinking outside the box, particularly in this job market too.
Yeah.
People are looking for it.
And I think also, Matt, that at the same time where the numbers have gone down significantly with the Department of Correction and the House of Correction, at the same time here in our county, our crime's down significantly. Even in the city of Brockton, violent crime, murders, rapes, they're down 20% since 2015. That doesn't just happen. That's because a lot of people are working on the front end, on the back end, and also holding people accountable in the middle. So as the sheriff talks about, mass incarceration, it's an absolute myth. It doesn't exist here, and it really has not existed here.
Yeah, and our numbers, just very quickly, during my tenure as sheriff, which I'm in my 18th year now, our highest numbers have been over 1,750 inmates. We're now down below 600.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, wow, that's terrific.
So the right people are in jail.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
I know we only have a few minutes left, but Tim, can you, people know that your office is, known for getting, victims, helping victims out and getting the bad people in jail. But the money you seize, what do you do with all that money that you actually seize? You put it back in the community, right?
Oh,
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. And it's all statutory. It's all regulated by the legislature. We have to report every year what we do with that money. So if we get $100, say, and we worked with one town, right at the outset, $50 goes to that town. All right. Okay. So then that would leave $50 with us, which we cannot use for personnel issues, which we never have. But what we are allowed to do is try to reinvest a portion of that back into the community. We've been doing that forever. And, all sorts of programs that go on, whether they be, Pembroke Titans we've dealt with, Hingham Cares. They ask for small little mini grants. They have to apply for them on our website, PlymouthDA.com, and then they have to show us what they did with the money after on. And we continue to go out and put that money back out there. We have to have lawyers involved in it, because what it is that people get arrested, they have $10,000, or they have a vehicle that is no liens are on it. We're allowed to take that money if it's derived from the drug distribution. And then we can go after that money or that item, whatever it may be, sell it, bring it back, and put it back in the community. So we do, we give money to senior centers. We go out and make sure that we have senior luncheons, and we talk to them about scams and make sure that they're fed. And putting that money back in the community. And at the end of the day, it's really not a lot of money in the big picture. And also at the same time, I have to make sure that I staff the lawyers, the admins. So it's really kind of a wash, but the money really works out so well that it goes back. I know some people want to take that money away from the DAs and want it to go to the general fund. And you know what, if they're going to, I guess, take those monies that we need also to make sure we can continue to work with our budgets, because we're also a state agency, great. But at the same time, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with that, and I think it's a positive thing for our community, and we've been doing that by statute for quite a while. Yeah,
that's terrific. And I know we're running short on time, but there's so many programs you do. I just want you to touch upon for 30 seconds the Human Trafficking Task Force, because a lot of people don't think human trafficking happens here in Plymouth County.
It happens everywhere. It's like domestic violence. It's everywhere. So we actually just got a grant for $1.5 million regarding human trafficking, and we have working with our communities. We're training police officers what to look for. We're dealing with commercial sexual exploitation of children, known as CSEC, trying to help those children who are going down that wrong path of individuals who are trying to get them and prostitute them out. We need to make sure that people understand that that's happening here, it's happening everywhere, and we have to train the people that we can train, make them aware as to what they're looking for when they show up at a scene, and help those people and break those situations from going on. We've been able to make sure we've prosecuted a number of cases, we've convicted people, we've put them in jail. We have many other cases going on right now. We'll continue to do that and make sure we can do our job.
Yeah, good. Sheriff, real quick, I want to ask real quickly, 30 seconds, actually both of you, Triad. Can you explain Triad? I was recently at the Council on Aging, or the Center for Active Living in Plymouth, and they bring up Triad. Can you talk 30 seconds about that?
Yeah,
what that is?
Triad is an excellent program started by the National Sheriff's Association, and it's a partnership. It brings together the seniors, law enforcement, the DA's office, us, the local police, and also fire and EMS. And we come together, we have programs that we do, we answer their questions, and we just keep them apprised of things that are going on.
Like scams.
Like scams,
Yep.
The educational component of that is a wonderful thing. And I think also the social component is a wonderful thing too. And I thank Tim for, he's really embraced this program, and I think it's worked out well.
We just did a mock trial for the Halifax Triad, and they loved it. They all played the roles of the defendant, they played the roles of co-defendant, so we're getting a lot of requests for that now, so we'll continue to do that.
Great idea. Last quick question, best hockey player?
Oh, that's him.
Oh, that's him over there.
Oh, come on, Tim. Best skater. All right, good. All right, so we solved that. All right, great. Thanks guys, so much for coming, and thank you for what you do for the county, for the state, and for the people of the Commonwealth. We really appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed watching today's show and found it very informative. I want to thank the staff at PAC TV, especially Donna, Dave, Chris, and Nate, for another terrific show, and we hope to see you next time on State Matters. Thanks for watching.